After their incredible grand final win over Manly, the Knights were the toast of Newcastle, and the city threw a huge one-day party to honour them. The day started with the boys showing off the Optus Cup in front of fans at Stockland Mall at Jesmond. Then Captain Paul Harrigan and coach Malcolm Reilly boarded a truck with the trophy bound for Newcastle. Mike Rabitt hosted the telecast. People lined suburban streets to see their heroes who were riding along in open-top cars. The crowds built as the motorcade turned into Beaumont Street at Hamilton.
With me is the Bishop of Newcastle, Roger Herb. Roger, have you ever seen anything like this?
I haven't. I mean, this is absolutely marvellous.
And Sir Rusty leads the way. There's Sir Rusty on his mechanical steed, followed by the Knight. Wasn't allowed onto the Sydney Football Stadium, but he's certainly welcome here in Newcastle in Hunter Street this afternoon.
And the crowd is going absolutely ballistic as they get closer to the Newcastle City Hall. What a great moment for the people of Newcastle. They've waited 10 years to get this, and probably many clubs have waited a lot longer than that, but it's come within 10 years of their history.
Between 30 and 40,000 people had packed into Civic Park to cheer the players.
He's only a kid. Paul Harrigan!
Gary Van Egmond knew his decision not to re-sign Jeremy Brockie, Ali Abbas and Tarek Elrich would ruffle feathers. He says he's happy to live and die by his team's results.
My job is to ensure that we can get the best possible football team to give us the best chance of winning this year's premiership. Unfortunately, right at this moment, that doesn't include those boys.
Elrich voiced his disappointment on Twitter, saying he believed he was part of the coach's plans and he was willing to take a pay cut in order to stay. In the end, Van Egmond says the Jets simply weren't willing to pay what the players wanted.
Tarek was on, a very good contract here, and the offer that was made a long time ago wasn't agreed to.
In positive news for fans, another favourite in Michael Bridges will be back.
Look, we'll definitely retain Bridgie, and it's just a matter of sorting things out with him.
With the Jason Kalina situation now likely to be resolved, the club is also reconsidering signing a high-profile marquee player. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. His focus is on the clash with the Cowboys, but clearly beating the Maroons is in the back of Akila Uate's mind.
We definitely have to win this year, that's for sure. We need to get the cup back in New South Wales.
Unfortunately, a pair of former Blues captains won't play this weekend. Kurt Gidley's injured shoulder will go under the knife next Tuesday, while Danny Badiris is hoping to be back after the bye. With Joel Edwards suspended, Ivan Tuamavave returns to the starting 13 after missing the Roosters clash due to a cork thigh. Matt Hilda looks likely to start at hooker, with Neville Costigan moving to lock. No matter who plays, the coach is pushing his team to get back to basics.
We just need to hold the ball. That's pretty much the whole thing. We didn't hold the ball the first and second half, and we didn't complete any sets.
This is phase 2, the new sand track. Phase 3 will be the new pro ride, and shortly after that we'll be looking to upgrade our inside turf track to make that a new racing surface.
Bill Mitchell's a political expert who's been around for a budget or two. So, how did the Hunter go?
The economy will slow and the government is already forecasting unemployment to rise, so I think that's very bad news for the Hunter.
He's nominated small businesses, cafes and retail as the big losers.
The sort of restaurant trade down Beaumont Street and Derby Street, they'll all feel the pinch.
It is pretty hard at the moment just to make ends meet, so I believe any more, situations where it's making it tougher for us, it's going to be pretty hard to make any money.
But if there were winners in the Hunter, it's definitely the parents of school-aged children.
Families do get a kick, low-income families get a kick.
The Hunter has one of the biggest proportions of working-class families in the country. Cherie has 2 children. She'll now get more than $800 to help meet costs.
Mounts up, especially with more than one.
But has Labor's local foursome done enough to secure votes? The country might be back in the black, but some are seeing red when it comes to local infrastructure spending. The electorate of Hunter MP Joel Fitzgibbon fared best. Among his highlights, money for work on the Hunter Expressway. Member for Newcastle Sharon Greason nominated rail upgrades at Hexham as her biggest win. Charlton's Greg Combay $1.27 million for council road upgrades. The same for Shortland's Jill Hall. The figure, though, no bigger than last year. But all up, no new spending in the Hunter. Nothing for the Glendale interchange and nothing to help the university set up a campus in the CBD.
It now will wait till about July to see how successful it is, and they need $65 million, so it's a big ask.
The Glendale Transport Interchange is something I have long supported, and the application by Lake Macquarie City Council is still alive and in the running.
We'll suffer in the next 3 to 5 years from some of these infrastructure slowdowns.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
A machete, knife and hammer were among the items shown to the jury on day 2 of the trial of Chad Shedden. The 34-year-old is accused of firing the shot that killed father of 2 Joshua Maynard on Links Drive at Raymond Terrace in June 2010. Shedden's lawyer has argued her client was defending himself and his brother from Mr Maynard, who was armed with a knife. But the Crown says the fatal confrontation was brought about by another violent episode on the evening of June 29 on Mount Hall Road. Prosecutor Lee Carr told the court that in that incident, Mr Maynard punched a man to the ground following a verbal dispute between 2 rival groups. One witness described how he looked through his window and saw 8 to 10 people outside his home and heard something along the lines of LSC or LFC, this is our town. Another witness told the court he saw Mr Maynard punch a man because he was leaning on his vehicle, and that the other group of men were part of the Lakeside Crew, a local gang. Late this afternoon, another witness gave evidence relating to events just prior to the shooting. The woman told the court she saw 2 cars driving at high speeds in the vicinity of Links Drive at around 11 o'clock. The prosecution claims it was this car chase which ultimately led to the fatal confrontation between the 2 groups. The trial continues. Kath Landers, NBN News.
A springtime festival that this year will have a little less spring in its step.
We won't be able to do the Grand Parade. That won't happen because without funding we just can't do it. It's too expensive to close the roads and hire the people that we need to run that event.
It's the first casualty after the Matara Committee knocked back $10,000 in council funding on the grounds the event would be moved to January in a bid to boost summer tourism.
When it comes down to it, council officers cannot run community events. Their appropriate role is to assist with the community events and assist the community, not take them over.
Now the organisers are going it alone, but will be asking council for in-kind support.
We want to keep the contractor's money that we contract onto Matara's Park while we're here to use for the festival.
Council is now reconsidering how it will support the event in what is its 51st year.
Obviously we'll respect their reviews and they'll be reflected in any report that goes to council.
Christy Reading, NBN News.
In many ways, Jack Campbell is just like any other boy. He's crazy about Lego and likes Star Wars. But Jack was born with a rare heart defect, and at just 3 days old, he underwent heart surgery, only for it to be unsuccessful. On the advice of doctors, Jack's parents, fearful their tiny son may not survive another operation, brought him home with palliative care. But Jack proved a fighter.
After we saw the cardiologist, he said, "Oh, look, I think the medication's worked. He's got an 80% chance of surviving the surgery with a 2% chance of brain damage." So we went back to Westmead and had open heart surgery, and he's here to tell the story.
Later this month, Jack will undergo more surgery to replace his donor pulmonary valve, which isn't coping as he grows. Dr. Gary Warner from the John Hunter Children's Hospital has been his cardiologist since day one. He says while Jack may need another replacement valve later in life, his future is bright.
To see him good, running around, and then realise you've got to go through it all again. It's a pretty torrid time for the family. But both Jack and the family cope remarkably well.
Jack is convinced that after the surgery he will have superhero strength. What he doesn't realise is he already does.
The energy levels should increase, which will be good, won't it?
We're hoping it won't cause his heart to work as hard as it is and might get a bit of growth out of him, put a bit of weight on, and so be a normal boy.
Yeah.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
For all the Knights' big off-season buys, it's surprising to see so many errors. Wayne Bennett is trying to trace the source of the problem, but the players believe they know.
The focus was more on us, we've just been beating ourselves in games, with those errors. So we've just got to get through our sets, try and complete well.
Now it's a case of persistence and patience on the training paddock, with some players even putting in extra time this morning. In the absence of Kurt Gidley and Danny Badiris, Chris Houston is one shouldering more responsibility, filling in as captain.
I'm comfortable being a leader in this side, and we've got some quality players out at the moment, so I'm just fulfilling the job for them.
Wes Nagama will take a back seat. He's been relegated to New South Wales Cup following last week's loss. Junior Sau takes over, and if the Knights lose on Saturday, he may not be the first to earn a recall. What is certain is you won't see anything like this on Jonathan Thurston.
I don't think we'll be taking him out. I think Matty Pryor did that, and he'll be sitting on the sideline.
The Cowboys say it's crucial they keep winning before losing their rep stars.
Producing a game like we did on the weekend, to get a bit of momentum going into the Origin series, we'll be losing a few players.
Kevin Messam, NBN News. He turns 39 next week, but Chad Bennett isn't counting.
Obviously, as you get older, they say your reflexes slow down a bit, but I feel like mine are getting better. So
speed and reaction remains the focus at training. And this Novocastrian has been hard at it for the past 6 months, with fitness guru Andy Mack.
It's the hurt business boxing, and in the ring there's nowhere to run from these, and he's ready to hurt people.
Which could be the best tactic against Ghana's James Amar, who's never been knocked out.
We've got no illusions. We think it's going to go to 12, and there'll be 12 hard rounds, and that's what we've got to train for.
3 titles are on the line, 2 of which Bennett will defend, including the WBO Oriental. If he wins, the junior welterweight champion has much bigger plans.
Yeah, it'll put me in a position where I'll be high enough ranked in the world ratings to challenge the #1 contender, Caesar Cuenca. He's who we're after.
A victory could also attract the man back to Newcastle. NBN News can reveal Anthony Mundine has shown interest in fighting the Novocastrian. Right now, though, there's a 193cm, 115kg monster undercard who's keen to steal the spotlight on June 1st.
I feel sorry for the next fight they're going to put in front of me, but...
Former New South Wales amateur champ Bobby Tuimoalunga is preparing for his second professional bout after a 5-year break. And yes, even he feels pressure.
Definitely need the nerves there just to keep you sharp and on the ball and in focus too.
Kevin Messam, NBN News.
Witnesses who lived near where Joshua Dylan Maynard was gunned down on Links Drive 2 years ago today gave evidence at the trial of Chad Shedden, the man charged with his murder. One told the court he heard a group of young men talking outside his home and went to investigate. He said he was approached by a man, later identified by the defence as Mr Shedden, say, "My friend has been bashed and we want to make it right." The witness also told the jury he heard one member of the group say, "I know 2 more are coming and then we'll go." Several other witnesses testified to hearing a group of men causing a stir in the area before a gunshot rang out and a car sped off. Another witness told the court she heard a man swearing profusely just after the bang went off, and it sounded as though he was about to be sick. The following morning, she found a star picket outside her home. A local resident also picked up a machete, believing it may be evidence, and called police. Prosecutor Lee Carr argues Mr Maynard's murder came in response to the bashing of another man earlier on the evening of June 29. Shedden's lawyer has told the court her client shot Mr Maynard to defend himself and his brother from the deceased, who was armed with a knife. Kath Landers, NBN News.
The brakes have been put on Volgren's contract to supply the state government with buses.
The project here has been carried on over the last 3 years, and we were hopeful that they'd get a continuity of orders here in the Hunter.
The AWU believes work at the Tomago site has been drying up for some time. The first redundancies will be handed out next week.
The company has laid off a number of casuals over the last few months, and from next week we understand there'll be the first of 12 redundancies, and they'll be across a number of trades in at the plant.
Just where the plant's future lies remains uncertain.
It'd be sad to see a facility like this reduce to bare minimum or even potential closure.
It's unfortunate it's come at a time right now where everything seems to be a bit tight.
But it's not all doom and gloom at Tomago. Earth-moving giant WestTrac is putting the finishing touches on its massive new plant, which will become one of the region's biggest employment hubs.
350 and then 550 eventually, and 150 trainees apprentices, which is great for young people.
The 23-hectare site will open in July. Christy Reading, NBN News. A routine drive to work which took a terrifying turn.
Started to think maybe my foot's asleep, something's not quite right. And all of a sudden I started veering to the right-hand side of the road and my right hand kept drifting.
Tony Bailey was having a stroke. The 49-year-old managed to drive to a friend's house. Slurring his speech and staggering, he called for help. Now, 10 days later, he's here at the rehabilitation unit at John Hunter Hospital, taking baby steps. He has to retrain his body after losing function in his right side.
Combing the hair, to walking, to brushing, to everything, because I was right-handed as well.
Stroke patients undergo a full-time program at the 40-bed ward.
We have over 100 stroke patients coming through here for rehabilitation each year.
And like Mr Bailey, they spend hours each day with physios and speech therapists.
It's not until you're admitted in here and you see the work that these people do. It's incredible.
On average, most patients will have around a month here, and social activities play a key part in speeding up recovery.
Setting up the ward in a manner that encourages more social interaction with families and other patients.
But nothing beats a fighting spirit.
You just lie there and you sort of say to yourself, well, it is what it is. You didn't have a choice in that, but now your choice is, do you lay and die, or do you fight it and get back?
Stephanie Jeans, NBN News.
She's just someone that you would go and talk to and felt she was genuinely interested in you as a person.
On the surface, Cassidy Kernaghan is a bright and bubbly 11-year-old. But what you can't tell is she's one of the Hunter region's youngest lupus patients, a chronic autoimmune disease.
I can't do much sport because of the sunlight, and one day I might wake up not good to go to school, then the next I'm not.
Lupus sufferers' bodies create autoantibodies that attack and destroy healthy tissue. Cassidy was diagnosed last December and needs medication twice a day, something she takes in her stride.
My friends help me out a lot, and so does my mum and dad, and I just control it. It's just a matter of taking my medicine all the time.
Today, on World Lupus Day, Cassidy and her mum Donna took time to raise awareness of the disease and the impact it has on people's lives, hosting a fundraiser.
There's no cure, so she's my baby girl, and I feel this is the only control I have over this disease.
Family and friends banded together, their awareness message seen from the sky. But despite the life-changing diagnosis, Cassidy's determined to help others.
It's not just for me, it's for every lupus sufferer around Australia.
Christy Reading, NBN News.
It was their big men muscling up and touches of class that created history for Southern Beaches last weekend. For the first time, the Premier Division side beat Merewether.
We're not there to make the numbers up, we're here to go as far as we can.
The club is well on its way, undefeated after 4 rounds and sitting equal first with Hamilton on the ladder. And it's the Hawks that Beaches coach Tim Chidgey is now preparing for.
It's about what we do, and we control what we do, and we've got to focus on Southern Beaches. My 15 blokes will be ready, and they got 15, we've got 15. Let's bring it on and see what happens.
In the past, Hamilton back rower Steve Sione has wreaked havoc for the club. More of the same is expected on Saturday.
He's carrying a fair few injuries, but he's playing great football.
And despite missing 6 players to country duty and injury, Hawks coach Scott Coleman is confident.
To be fair, there's guys in second grade that would probably get a run in other teams first, and we're lucky enough to have that strength, so they get their chance to cement a spot in first grade.
Kick-off is at 3 at Carl Oval. Kevin Mattam, NBN News.
We have come a long way. This is big. This is a big deal for us. We're going to celebrate tonight, I guarantee you that.
You never know how imports will adjust, but if there's been a standout for the Hunters this season, it's American Dion Sims. Last weekend, he scored 20 against Maitland.
I feel like I'm a part of the family now, so the team's doing great and I'm enjoying myself.
The American recruit has been a force since his first game back in March.
And I feel like as I raise my play, the team will raise their play. And I can get better personally and the team can get better. So you just continue to work hard every day.
Friend and former college teammate Adam Stanger helped lure the playmaker from Georgia.
He made the transition very smooth, and I love playing with the guy, and I love being on the court with him.
He's actually played slightly different over here than what he did in the States. I've actually seen him diving for a few balls out here, so I was pretty surprised about that. But no, he brings a lot of composure.
Stanger himself returned to Newcastle this season with a spring in his step after a year with the Sydney Comets. The 25-year-old couldn't be happier to be back.
Definitely a lot of passion every single time you play in front of a home crowd in Newcastle.
He says there's belief the Hunters can go all the way.
We've come up victors in a couple really close ones this year, and I think that's just come down to everybody really driving for the win.
Newcastle hosts Canterbury on Saturday night. Kedvin Mettam, NBN News.
It's essentially a one-stop shop.
There'll be allied health professionals here, doctors, visiting specialists, dental service.
After a 5-year haul, the $15 million Health One GP super clinic proposed for Raymond Terrace has finally been given the green light. The Joint Regional Planning Panel gave the project unanimous support yesterday. With local health services struggling under a heavy patient load, the new medical centre looks set to ease the pressure. Renal dialysis capabilities would also mean patients won't be forced to travel for treatment.
We have patients throughout Port Stephens requiring dialysis, and they have to go to John Hunter or Charlestown for their treatment. This will have 8 chairs.
And it won't just serve locals.
There's a lot of people from Nelson Bay and from other outlying areas like Gloucester and even far up as Great Lakes come down to this area as well.
The new facility, which will be built right here, will also help as a draw card, recruiting new and much needed medical professionals to the area.
There's been a real shortage of GPs in the Raymond Terrace area, and the Raymond Terrace family practice are moving into the new facility, and that'll actually provide some space for them to attract some more doctors.
Construction will start next year. Amy Ziniak, NBN News.
When the resources super cycle does ultimately fade, what are we looking to drive growth from that point? And this is what we need to turn our minds to now, so that we don't start thinking about it when it actually hits us.
From Merriweather to Nobby's Beach, joggers and walkers take in the scenery. Every day the Newcastle Coastal Walk, known as the Bathers Way, attracts heavy foot traffic, recording anywhere up to 500 pedestrians per hour.
It's like a highway for people exercising around here. It's great.
6 o'clock in the morning till late in the afternoon, there's people up and down this
area all the time.
So for that reason, Newcastle Council has been working on upgrading its coastal walkway.
Anything that's been built here was built in the 20s and 30s. So it is about time. Newcastle does need a wholesale upgrade of its coastal infrastructure.
Bathers Way set to become a 6 kilometre, 4 metre wide path linking the city's beaches.
The car park kind of interrupts it a bit, but it'd be such a nice walk all the way to the beach.
It's a plan worth $15 million. Quite expensive, but it's over 10 or so years and will include everything from landscaping to shading and even picnic areas.
And in the longer term, we're hoping that we can get that road from what was Newcastle South Beach up through King Edward Park open again to slow-moving one-way traffic.
Plus, it's hoped the state government will contribute to the kitty. Today, the ribbon was cut to unveil the long-awaited plans and to officially open the new Bar Beach Lookout.
We're getting more whales going past, and this is an excellent location to view them from, and there'll be more of these.
Amy Ziniak, NBN News. Mining giant Xstrata escorted us to its Mount Owen operation. Here there are 3 open-cut coal mines, home to 500 employees and processing up to 15 billion kilograms of coal every year. But the company is most proud of its rehabilitation projects. Xstrata says this year alone it'll restore 115 hectares of bushland and 85% of the original flora, but more importantly, it's ongoing and will eventually take in all of the disturbed land.
It's more than just achieving area targets, it's about the quality as well and ultimately leaving a positive legacy to the community.
Now, despite projects like that one, many residents aren't convinced. According to Singleton Council's draft blueprint for 2022, mining and rehabilitation remain their single biggest concern.
We are now living in what will be the black hole, and it's amazing seeing a mine site restored. Yeah, but that does not stop the coal dust coming down on us. It does not stop other mines wrecking some local creeks.
Don't think they're really thinking that far ahead. Very concerned with what's going on at the moment.
Well, the land's a big problem, yes, it's a big problem, but the mines will take over. It doesn't matter what you say or what you do because you've got to have the dollars.
The town's mayor wants to see accountability.
Some that are doing it very well, others aren't doing it very well at all. Best practice needs to come much more into play with some of them.
While Singleton environmental groups say mining is out of control.
Mountains of earth that haven't been recovered. And there are these mountains of earth that have been recovered in weeds. And I think, my God, what are my kids going to say in the future? How did you let this happen?
Kevin Messam, NBN News.
May He give rest to our sister Margaret, who has departed from us, and number her among the just.
As the saying goes, it's a long way to the top. And in rugby league circles, no one knows that better than Chris Adams. The 25-year-old has come back from several serious injuries, and his teammates couldn't be happier he's making his NRL debut.
Full credit to him. He's been here for a pretty long time, and there's no one in the club that works harder than him. He's one of our better trainers, so couldn't happen to a better bloke.
Former Australian hooker Danny Badiris was on hand to provide advice and encouragement, with Adams likely to share dummy half duties with Matt Hilda. The man they call Trouble says the Knights are sick of letting down their supporters and themselves.
I think we've got a pretty simple game plan. I think that's the way we're going to go. Get back to basics and just play as hard as we can.
Despite Newcastle's up and down season, James McManus has produced some of his best form. He'll notch 100 games for the Knights against the Cowboys.
The first 50 came quick. It took me a while to get the second lot out though, but finally here, and it's going to be good. I've got some family coming down to watch the game, and being up in Darwin, they don't get to watch too many games, so it'll be good to see them this weekend.
And Zeb Taylor is reportedly on his way out of Newcastle at season's end and is weighing up offers from the UK and rival NRL clubs. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. With several former Knights in the ranks, including George Nadera and Jesse Royal, Curry was always going to be a force. Its player coach believes the most encouraging aspect is the influx of young players.
10 local junior Curry players in our first grade squad this year playing. So yeah, it is very good for Curry to have the juniors coming up.
Nadera says he's enjoying the challenge of playing and coaching, and in true coaching style, he's giving nothing away about his tactics for Wyong.
Our game plan, well, I'll go through that with the boys tonight. If you come to the game tomorrow, then I guess you'll see what our game plan is.
In other games, Cessnock host the Rosellas tonight. Lakes face the Scorpions on Sunday. On the track, and history will be made in the $20,000 Newcastle Derby tomorrow, when 3 current Derby winners go head-to-head. With New Zealand Derby champion Fly Like an Eagle also in the mix, it's anyone's race. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
It's been a while since horses strode the main street, but their importance to the region is still as strong as ever.
Horse industry to Scone and the Upper Hunter is everything known as the horse capital of Australia. The thoroughbreds, the stock horse, the everyday horse, and then all the sports that go with it.
The Upper Hunter is the largest thoroughbred breeding area in the Southern Hemisphere, so the threat of mining has understandably sparked the ire of those who depend on the land. But amid the political placards, a flurry of festivities. Dancers defied gravity atop the hay bales, while others shared a public display of affection. Classic cars and pedal power paved the way for another favourite four-legged friend.
And what did you like most?
The horses. The floats. The horses. The old cars.
This year, the emerging sport of horseball is making its debut at the festival.
It's probably a mix of basketball, rugby and polo on horseback. It's quite fun and fast.
Horseball originated in Argentina in the 1700s and was played using an ill-fated duck. Fortunately, the ball's been adapted since then.
2 teams of 4 riders on the field at a time, and it's 3 quick passes down the other end and throw it through a vertical goal.
With a net this big and a bit of added height, how hard could it be? Yes!
The festival wraps up next Sunday. Kat Landers, NBN News.
With top spot on the line, both sides were guilty of some early nervous moments. The boot of Tim Riley opened the account for Beaches. Damien Wells returned serve for the Hawks, landing 3 penalties in the first half. Noel Kinane made his intentions clear. That tackle sparked the first of several scuffles. In the wash-up, both sides had a player in the bin. Beaches then went down to 13 men when Kane Quinlan also received a yellow card. The Hawks looked certain to take advantage, but mistakes and solid defence kept Hamilton at bay. At the other end, Corey Nash and Riley combined to put the home side in front. Then, just before the break, William So was involved in his second incident. This time the referee saw red. The game then seemed to open up in the second half. Low on troops, the Hawks finally found the line thanks to Steve Sione. But the home side showed why it's now a genuine premiership contender as Nash put Beaches back in front. When Quinlan extended that lead to 9 points, victory was definitely on the cards. A late try to Hamilton kept the crowd on edge, but Beaches hung on to remain the competition's only undefeated team.
In Mount Hutton, a fight is brewing. And these parents are calling for victory on moral grounds.
It's just wrong. You can't put a bottle shop that close to a school community.
Less than 50 metres from the local primary school, Woolworths has plans for a beer, wine and spirits store.
The kids will walk past this twice a day, every school day, for the entire year. And I just wonder what sort of messages we're sending to our children.
There's already 2 other liquor outlets 500 metres away, 14 in a 5k radius. And last week, the plight of these parents was heard in Parliament.
there's increasing evidence that large densities of liquor outlets will drive up violence in the community. We have a major problem in New South Wales, and Mount Hutton is just one example of that.
But a report before council tomorrow recommends the bottle shop be approved.
It's time that somebody, a council, stood up to the big boys, to the giants, to the Woolworths, the Coles and that, and said enough is enough.
These parents have the support of the majority of Lake Macquarie councillors, but not approving this development could open up a legal minefield.
There is nothing in the planning guidelines that limits where a bottle shop can go. If council doesn't approve this, I believe it'll go to the Land and Environment Court, and on planning grounds, the Land and Environment Court will overturn council's decision.
And if any battle at ratepayers' expense isn't won, the Greens will join the fight.
Mount Hutton is our line in the sand. If the council approves Mount Hutton, we will not let this liquor store go ahead.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
The Blues went on the attack right from the opening whistle. Hamilton responded through captain Dave Hodgson, who teed up Tom Walker for the opener. Scott Smith then missed a golden opportunity to draw the home side level. At the other end, John Majerowski thought he had Hamilton second, but the referee's assistant had other ideas. The visitors looked most likely to score after the break, Majerowski calling Blues keeper Andrew Goldman into action. Matthew Tull went close to opening the Blues account as his shot hit the woodwork. Midway through the second half, the game seemed to open up, but City's defence was holding firm. That was until Majerowski's softest effort somehow found a way through. The home side needed a lift, and it got one when Mitchell Harper cleaned up Smith's deflected shot. When Walker made his way down the right and set up Clayton Poole, Hamilton's 2-goal buffer was restored. Even a late instinctive effort from Harper couldn't change the result,